I'm going to attempt to hang this 12-foot long piece of drywall on that wall right there. I've already got it loaded on the lift. I did manage to have the lift over here in front of this pile of drywall, and I put it on the cradle, and I did wheel it over here, so I didn't have to actually drag the piece of drywall over here. But this is kind of a unique room because it's pretty open. So I'm going to try to use this to hang the top sheet on this wall. Keep in mind, I've already had to actually lift the sheet and put it on this cradle. So I've already lifted a 12-foot piece of drywall 39 inches off the ground and put it on that cradle. Some of the issues that I have with using the ceiling lift to hang something on a wall is eventually when I go to actually hang this, I have to tip the drywall off the cradle, off this, and lean it against the wall. So I'm pushing it off of that, and it's only hanging on these bottom little clips. The other thing is it's a little hard to maneuver around with the three wheels. They don't all want to, they all pivot in opposite directions. So it's a little bit cumbersome, but I think it can be done. But I'm just going to give it a try and let you know how it works and let you see how it works. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get close to the wall. And I want to make sure I'm reasonably tight in this corner because it doesn't move from side to side that easily. But I can't have it too tight or it'll be pulling that material off the wall. So now I've got it right tight to the corner, pretty square to the thing. In other words, I'm tight to that wall, and I'm a little off right here. So I'll try to see what happens there. Okay, now I've got to tip it towards the wall and then crank it up. Pretty close to the ceiling height. I'm going to tip the top in. But what I have to be cautious of is going to want to push this lift backwards. So I want to make sure I've got my foot on here so it doesn't push the lift back as I do that. So now I've got it close to the wall. I'm taking my right hand and I'm just turning the handle slightly to get it going up. Now keep in mind, it will stay, but you can see that the more pressure I put against that ceiling, the more it wants to kick back. So that's something you got to be really careful of. So you can actually relieve a little of that pressure. You don't want too much pressure, and you want this as close to the wall as you can get it, or it's going to create too much of an angle and it's definitely going to push back. So I think I have it tight against the wall and tight against the ceiling. Now I'm going to fasten that top edge. Okay, that worked actually pretty well. Keep in mind, the higher the ceiling, the more it's going to want to kick backwards on you. So the difficulties are, it wants to kick backwards. You still have to lift the drywall to the cradle, and the three-wheel base is very hard to maneuver back and forth. This worked very well here because the wall is longer than this piece of drywall. So I was able to get it into the room easily, make my little maneuvers before I lifted it up. If this was a wall and that I was fitting this exact length into, it'd be much more difficult because of the lack of maneuverability with the three-wheel base. So now I'm just going to lower the cradle and it'll just swing into the wall. And this will only hang the top sheet. It doesn't help you at all when you hang the bottom sheet either. So let's try a tool that is specifically made for hanging drywall on walls. This is the Hang Pro drywall lift for walls. It's made exclusively for hanging drywall on walls. It can hang the upper sheet and the bottom sheet. It has four wheels. The two coaster wheels across the front, they're only for side-to-side movement. They do not pivot. The back wheels are just there to actually use it as a hand cart type tool and helps me to get the drywall closer to the wall The front little coaster wheels, caster wheels, allow me to side movement to make little adjustments to get it placed exactly where I want it. So first, I've got the lift right against the drywall on the wall. Just lifting it slightly, put it on the cradle, tipping it back towards the lift. Just getting it off the ground just a little bit. And now I take the entire lift and I put it right against the wall. You don't want it tipping backwards because then all the weight will be pushing away from the wall. Right now it's just going to glide it right up over the insulation. Once I get it close to where I want it, I do want to tighten this corner because of the front coaster wheels. I'm able to just pull it to the left. There's enough play in the cradle that allows me to still attach it to a ceiling or walls that are a little bit out of plumb. Now I'm just putting it up nice and tight. And now I just go through fasten the top edge, fasten around the windows, and I'm cutting the windows out afterwards. A lot of people don't really know that you can hang the bottom piece of drywall on a wall with the Hang Pro. All you do, similar to just hanging the ceiling, put it on the cradle. Now, what I like to do is I like to crank it up above the other sheet and then lower it down into place. So I'm going to crank it up just a little bit, push it against the wall. Now you can see it's a little bit above the other panel. So I'm going to lower it slowly down to where I want it. Now I'll check to see if it needs to go this way. It can go a little bit, but it's hitting in the bottom corner, so it probably won't. And there you go. There's a 12-foot piece of drywall, easily lifted and held into place, even for the bottom panel. All right, I've got to lift the bottom panel up about a 1/2 inch. And the traditional way to raise it up is with a foot lift. And it can be done, but it's not as easy or as user-friendly as using the hang tool. You got to kick it underneath it, and then try to balance it and get it in place. And keep your foot on it as you're fastening. Definitely more of a two-person job than it would be if I just use a hang pro. This is an interesting sheet, and I did struggle a little bit, but did I physically struggle? No. The lift did all the work for me. I had to do some maneuvering to get it to fit in here because there's some complicated circumstances here. The bottom sheet being hung there was not a good idea. This insulation is kind of poked out a little bit, so I'm getting caught on that. But I've got it in place. I didn't do any lifting so far. I'm not doing any holding. The tool is doing all the work for me. Now, I'm going to crank it up to the ceiling. I like the fit. It's tight into that corner. I'm going to check to see how it is over here. It's a little tight right here. So I'm going to go and fasten up in this corner and then let this drop slightly in order to fit along that top wall. So there you go. Really, this would have been next to impossible for me to hang by myself, but I just took my time. I needed to get this piece of drywall from that other room into here. And I'm working, like I said, I'm working alone. And I basically just kind of dragged it in here. There was no reason for me to lift it up high. This drywall is quite durable. Maybe I did scuff up the bottom edge slightly, but it doesn't matter. I got in here without doing a bunch of lifting. I got it right in place. Now I just need to lift it about a 1/2 inch so I can fasten it in place and have a little space along the floor. One thing I really like about using the Hang Pro to hang the bottom sheet, to lift and hold the bottom sheet, is I have the ability to move it from side to side. In other words, I'm not only lifting it up this, in this case, about 1 inch and a little over 1 inch, I'm able to move it into this corner because I actually want to do a little, this first sheet here was a little short, so I want to be able to slide it behind it to, you know, compensate for some of that mistake there. So the ability to lift and hold, but also the side-to-side movement that you don't get when you use a regular foot lift.